Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Shine from the Inside's Community Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Collington, and today we're going to be talking about numbers, number symbolism specifically, and the importance of using it for your self-development, which is a big part of self-development, is your spiritual development. Again, not a preacher to tell you that you need to be practicing your spiritual practice in any kind of way or believing anything that I believe. In this podcast series, we are going over things that help me on my evolution to empowerment, to self fulfillment, and also a large part of that is inner power. And when you have inner power, you are at the full capacity of directing your own destiny. Okay, you are somebody that's leading your own life. A lot of these things I'm teaching is because I don't believe in the way that things are being taught or handled or dealt with out there, and that we're not educating people the way they need to be educated, especially at this time where we need people to let's get it together. And this took me years of my life. And I'm not saying it'll be quick for anybody or fast for anybody, but introducing a lot of these things and understanding them and how they play a role in our life can be a very beneficial tool for helping people come online, activate, align themselves quicker with their authentic self, and to stop and to pull right back out of the things that are really toxic and false in our society currently, right? And have been going on in our society for a long time. It's time for us to truly step up to the next level. And for me, I'm all about creating utopia here, okay? So that's what I'm trying to do, is to create people who are awakened enough in themselves that they can also reach that point of wanting to be on a utopia as well. And part of that is by us all taking back our power and realizing the true essence of the beings that we truly are. And today, going over numbers, you're going to see, because I'm going to talk about it, how people are skeptical about it. You should be. I'm always going to say you should be skeptical. I'm never going to say believe anything 100% out of the doubt. I went to school. It's not like, and in science, that's the one thing that they always say. You can never say something is 100% fact. Okay, everything has a little room for error, and if people are 100% talking in black and white narratives to you, it's a very big red flag. So one of the things, because you should always be able to know that things aren't always what we think they are, okay? And so symbolism is especially true for that, because when you get into symbolism, things can mean a variety of different things. And depending on the context, a lot of them come to us in, or how we feel, or what we were doing at the time, it changes the meaning. And sometimes we're not paying attention enough to really understand how those things correlate fully or apply themselves fully. And so sometimes we can be biased. Sometimes we can misunderstand and miscontribute things. And so we aren't going to get the accurate message. Sometimes we can gaslight ourselves with symbolism and be like, yeah, I'm doing great because I've seen 11/11 this week. You know what I mean? But we'll get into it. 11/11 is a great omen, but it also, if you see it, right, and you're not honoring its power, sometimes it's a wake-up call that you're neglecting what you have going on. Sometimes it's a wake-up call that if you are not doing well, be careful. Your energy is extremely high right now, and so you're quickly manifesting this. So if you're already having struggles and you're viewing it that way, we're going to give you more. And it's not a way to shame you. It's a way to be like, yo, wake up. Remember this. Remember that you are a creator. Okay, and so numbers are really powerful. They're one of the things that's easiest for the universe or divine source to communicate with us using, because they are everywhere. All right, and so today we're going to get into kind of what they are, why they're important. We're going to get into the history of them, how long they've been around, how they've impacted our life along the way, the different kind of capacities that they exist in for numbers, and how they can, in healing modalities or in just like different kind of forms of understanding the numbers in your own life, in your own past specifically, but also that are around us. And then the essence of the numbers and how these then can impact our aura, which then impact us, right? And how then we can utilize this for our advantage, okay? So let's get over that now. Let's get into it. All right, so why numbers? I was originally going to do this video on angel numbers, but the more I got into it, the more I realized that angel numbers is a very limiting thing. And there's people, the creator herself, Doreen Virtue, I do believe is her name, a few years ago, she renounced these things. She said that they were the work of the devil, right? And so again, word of caution, everything that is out there could be used for nefarious intentions. All right, it is a big, how you interact with it, how you're using it or if you're abusing it. Also, if you're giving all of the power to like yourself, right? You're not really, and if you're over trying to use the signs, like over abusing them is one of them, but also just like the signs mean everything and it's just the sign rather than you actually trying to connect with the divine through that. Like, it's interesting because there's different ways that things can be used for not the best. And so I don't say that she's not wrong in saying that they can be, just like people are right to say the devil could be in tarot cards, which I have tons of. You know, people could say about crystals, people can say about herbs, people can say it about chanting, people can say about meditation. There has been, since the eons of time, them trying to control us, and these ancient healing modalities especially, these ancient ways to connect with spirit, they were, especially your own intuition, especially anything of a sovereign like kind of thing for you to just be self-governing. They had a really big problem with us being able to use those things because it restricted their control of us. It made us a little bit more ungovernable, right? And they don't make money from people like that. So one of the things they did was to ensure that we did not have access to these tools so that we could be these things constantly feeding their pockets and constantly helpless. If we don't know these things, we can't guide ourselves. And in a world that doesn't want to guide us either and doesn't want to help us, right? It's really easy for us to get lost. It's really easy for us to get consumed in things that doesn't matter and overlooking the things that do, because that's another reason why there is, I do believe, skepticism. People want to overlook these things and claim they don't matter. Like even Doreen Virtue, it's crazy to think somebody who did all this work and looked into all of this would say that. You think numbers don't matter? You think God exists and created these things and that none of it matters, right? God is the most ultimate scientist and creator, and you think all those details are irrelevant, right? So that's what we're going to get into now, is like why numbers matter. This isn't just about angel numbers. This is about numbers in themselves, okay? Angel numbers is one version of how you can utilize numbers, how they can speak to you, one avenue, right? But there's many different avenues. So numbers, why they don't really, I wouldn't say they're the number one sign to be looking for, ever. You shouldn't be looking for signs in the first place, but if you do need an omen, they are really a quick, good one. And one of the reasons why is because they're so easy for us to get to. Numbers are everywhere. Our life right now, everywhere. And that's also why people overlook them. Numbers are everywhere. So you just see numbers and you're like, oh, I see it all the time, so it doesn't mean anything. Meanwhile, to me, the more of a number, especially if you're seeing like 1, 2, 3, 4, or like 4 zeros, 6 zeros, right? Like the more those numbers grow, the more power behind that number, right? So if they're all there, if they're all in ascending or a descending order, the more power there is in that. And so like for me, I understand that we have these numbers, but because we have so many numbers happening in a day with us, that's even more the chances of you seeing certain ones. You're seeing those specific ones, right? You're not seeing all the numbers, and there's some of them that repeat. Some of them for years could follow us, right? And just stick out, and every time we see it, something crazy is going on. And so if we look at modern research, they say it's proven that we're maybe in a simulation, right? And so if you're in a simulation, kind of like a video game, there's coding beneath that. One of the very basic levels for us to be talked to then is through this coding. And I mentioned in my last video why these messages are so easy. It's so probable for us to get data, because data is what we technically are, what everything is. So when we see numbers, they are the basic formation of level that the divine can communicate to us on, because that at our core, right, all of us is made up of atoms and numbers and energy in itself, and energy can be measured, right? And so in itself, we therefore, it implies that all of us are on some level are coding, which means when we're looking at how to develop ourselves, we are in essence trying to look at how to change our coding. So some of the ways that a lot of influencers or teachers or guides or healer, anybody out there, they will use thinking about things like systems and programs. So when we're thinking and talking about ourselves, a big part that we can think about is that we are reprogramming ourselves at that time, that it is the data we're changing. So if the data isn't technically correct, there might be a bug in the system. And all we have to do is correct that, is to fix that little digit or thing that isn't in alignment, okay? And so when we get into this, we can start seeing, like, even in our health, numbers may not matter until you go get your health work done, and then all of a sudden they matter a great deal. People think numbers don't matter, but how many people base their entire life on what they see on a scale, right? Whether they feel good or not about themselves. You know, and even in our numbers for our health, they reveal how we're doing internally in a lot of ways that we might not even notice, right? And so numbers don't matter until they do. And a lot of the time we are not giving them the recognition that they deserve, right? And it's similar to how our spirit and our soul is. If we can get numbers for our health through blood, you know, how do you think your spirit can get numbers and that for its own experience as well? Well, a lot of that's going to be reflected back to you in your atmosphere and what comes up for you, right? That's why a lot of people, when they're doing videos, like a lot of people in this line of work that I do, they'll timestamp. Like when they all of a sudden look and that timestamp came up for a specific, like 1, 2, 3 just came up when I'm talking about that. It's like a forward progressive moment of the fact that we are on that ascending, leveling up kind of period, whatever is going on for that number. But there is a certain reason that that number stuck out, and somebody watching it, maybe that's a number they've heard multiple times a day, right? Maybe that's a thing that they needed to hear now. They don't know. So it's always important. These numbers, they come to us, they stick out for some reason, they draw you in for a reason. And sometimes if you even think about it for a second, that's your intuition being like, look that up. But anyway, so numbers are always trying to educate us, to comfort us, to be there for us, to indicate something, to communicate, and some of the ways that they also are there to activate us. Certain things and certain codes or sequences that we see create something that activates on a frequency inside of us, which then changes or enhances some level or amplifies us, okay? And so, like our planet, okay, certain numbers can become beacons, checkpoints, similar to how coordinates can pinpoint exact locations, all right, on our physical plane of reality. So like angel numbers or certain numbers in themselves, they can also be an indicator or a direct link to a spiritual GPS of where we are currently internally, all right? So these things that we have, even though we do not see it that way, that's a way for you to understand what these are doing, why they are talking to you. When somebody says this is the work of the devil, yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be, because the devil wants to direct you to, right? The devil, at any time, if you want to take its hand, will go with you. Will go. The point of the journey, though, usually, your higher self, it's always usually going to be probably the harder choice. And you're always going to know it's the better one. All right? So the devil will never convince you that you're making the right choice without you feeling something is wrong, you know? In some sense, you always know when you take the devil's hand. Even when you know that it's not, like you... I just mean, there is a difference between connecting with higher dimensional beings versus lower dimensional beings. And there is a difference between knowing who and what you're talking to. And so in a lot of these works, you can definitely tell the people who've been influenced negatively, or who are currently taken over. And part of that is based off of how they teach you to use these things, okay? Part of why I bring this up in the way that I do is because this truly, understanding our physical reality, I don't want this to replace any other means. It's one of many puzzle pieces to our existence, and using it helps us to get into those locations that we need to get into. As I've talked about in prior videos, sometimes when you randomly are drawn to someplace, there's something there that you need to activate within you. Even that coordinate you're at. It might be a specific number sequence that we don't know. I don't know. I've never looked into that. That's a level beyond which I've ever looked into. But now it makes me curious, doesn't it? Some of these spaces, is that why we activate, is because there's that coding of that specific physical GPS. But sometimes there's an energetic grid inside of you, right, that you needed to go there for you. And these numbers, they pop up because sometimes there's a coding, there's something you need to go to inside of it. And so we can use these numbers. Sometimes when they pop up randomly, it's a good indicator of where you are. Yeah. Another way that people use these things is I think they're the Grabanio codes. It's not on this page, that's why I'm not reading it. But the thing is that these codes are specific sequences that are for specific like coordinate in a GPS to take you to a place. So you can use these numbers then to not only understand where you are, but to direct you where you want to go if you want to start things like manifesting, right? This is a way some people apply these codes, is in their manifesting, in their affirmations. All right, so the whole point is that certain numbers then find us because there's specific locations that we need to go or specific locations we're already in. And some numbers we find because there's specific locations we want to direct ourselves to. And the whole point of numbers is the more that you understand them, the more that you can have that relationship with them, which then, to me, is a connection closer to the divine, to source. Because if we are created out of these numbers, out of these codes, connecting with them deeper only connects you deeper with what you already are, which is that essence of spirit, right? And so for me, there's something for us to honor, even though I do consider them the base level. You know, and by base level, I just don't think they're as potent as if I see a whale. Chances of me seeing a whale a year, a few times. There's chances of me seeing an 1111. I don't know about some people, but I do be seeing some things a lot because numbers happen quite regularly in my field, and because I pay attention, I notice. So now it's not, am I going to see that number? It's which number do I see the most for me to know that one's the most important right now for me, right? Anyways, so these are just more probable. It's not the fact that they don't matter. It's not the fact that they don't hold weight, because you'll see, and throughout this video, there's quite a lot that I will get into to show how unique and fascinating it can be to actually start looking at what numbers can mean for stuff that you yourself have already created, okay? And see how it lines up now for what your intention was with it, okay? And we'll get into that. So anyways, they may not be the most powerful, but they are vital and important nonetheless. And for the different ways, they're another piece of that puzzle and another detailed understanding and working with life's kind of map, right? And so I have a blurb here that I'm going to read, which is, it's easy to be skeptical about their importance. Our world of the past created one where they wanted that for us, unbelieving to support from other means deemed appropriate, and yet all this world is God's world. Every sign, symbol, detail created with purpose, intention, because it all matters and all means something. Down to each ingredient in our foods, herbalism kind of touched on that, which is something that I also will get to in the future, but so does paganism, and seeing all the different undertones to it. There's many different areas and cultures and ways of life that pay attention to the undertow, the underlying properties and energy to things that we are not privy to, because they do not want us to know for a reason, right? And so we are not aware of so many of these things in our daily life. We think we know so much, but we don't know any of it due to overlooking the significance to all, which I get, as it can be a lot, but I know this has been done to discredit it. It's been done to discredit us and all around us from our true integral power. By knowing alone that this is what our world has kind of done to us on purpose, this should, in essence, make everyone want to learn more. It should make you want to discover all there is. For the deeper we come into harmony of the meanings and giving them the reverence they deserve, the quicker we create a world of the same. We, the little people, the people who have been here, and discredited over time, we have been discredited for too long. And the more that we honor ourselves and our life and all the components making it up, the sooner we can embrace the full power and support that is innate for us. The more we can direct our own destiny and future, because we see the truth of what's happening versus minimizing it, numbing it, or dumbing it down, or ourselves. We should be skeptical. That's what makes us smart. And it will make us curious to know more, to discover more, and to know what's aligned versus not, truths from lies. Even me, like I said before, with all symbolism, it's never for sure. There's always more I can look at, okay? But with discernment, which comes from your intuition, we can get a pretty accurate, assumption or understanding of what's going on for true meaning for us, and not get lost in the signs, but to know when they come up in a big way, there's something at play, right? And if we want to change in certain ways, how we can utilize some tools like the power of numbers to aid us, right? So to me, this isn't just numbers. It's the divine talking to us. It's my ancestors. It's the universe. It's speaking, hand delivering even. Words of affirmation, hand delivering these hugs of reassurance, these love letters, confirmations of celebrations, these blessings, these portals, these openings, right? And some of them, that's what the numbers are. They are a portal. Zeros, right? Create a hole. So at some point, a zero is a portal. It's a new beginning. It's a fresh start. These numbers can do so much for us. And when we actually understand that and work with them, and again, all these different kind of components I'm going over in this community, the whole reason I'm doing so is to get us closer to that connection, because once we get there, I do believe the world will shift naturally and support that. And by the world, I mean us. Nature itself, she is already doing that. She's doing all she can. She's working overtime to try to help, because she's trying to correct everything that we're already doing wrong. Meanwhile, she more needs us to take ownership now. And the ownership starts with ourselves. And that's what this is about. This is about you taking ownership of your own life. Because once you start owning your own life, they can't really control your life. They can't control this world if we all have that same level of self-awareness, right? It's because even if they kill some of us, they can't kill us all. So that's why it's most important for as many of us to understand and to be integrating this knowledge. Because even if the world does collapse, we only need a few of us that have this in us and this understanding, and to be working with it for it to become what shapes the next world. All right. So it doesn't matter who survives. It just matters that at least the people that do are aware of this information that need to be carried forward, so that we don't have repeats happening. Right. That's what's been happening, is our history is getting wiped out, and we have people that don't know any better that are left behind. And so they believe with good faith that what they're being told is right. And it's not. Never has been, sadly. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the different ways that you can kind of use it, but also the difference in it, right? Like the different applications of these symbolisms. So angel numbers, unlike animal symbolism, they're more frequent, common in our reality, of course. Data is easy for us to receive. It's the first level of communication. And so they're usually giving you real-time guidance. And so they're going to have high probability. If you see that in one day, like a bunch of say triple ones in one day, triple zeros, triple nines, the more numbers you see of one number, again, more power there's behind it. But even if you just constantly are seeing like five, five is a number of big change, right? It's like a sweeping motion. So they think of it as like a wave. So it's moving in waves of flow. And so you're changing, right? So if you see a lot of fives are just coming up all the time for you, it could be a big sign that there's a lot of change underway for you, okay? And so these things, because they're happening, the moment that you get a little bit of brief understanding of a number, right, they're a quick confirmation. You see something, you're like, I know what that means. And so you can immediately apply it to real-time scenarios. And so they can then link us through habits and internal thoughts or patterns. And so we can start to see how these are kind of overlapping with what's actually going in our own reality. And these angel numbers, especially versus numerology, angel numbers are very fluid and adaptable. So these things, at one time in your life, one number might be assigned for you more, and then another number might become one. And by that, it just means that they don't really change. They don't really stay the same. They can always be changing constantly for you. Whereas if we get into numerology is something that's more fixed. So once you get a number, usually, that's always going to be your number. So like a life path, I have them down here. Life path numbers, right, are going to stay the same usually. The ones for your name, they're usually going to stay the same, but people can change their name, and I looked it up. And the point is that technically your old name will still matter as a blueprint, but once you fully embrace your new identity, you then change into that new destiny number, or that new number that now becomes your new life path, because you've now changed what's happening in there. So There's the expression or destiny number. This is how new numerology is used, okay? And so this is literally all the letters of your name put together, right? And they add it up and you get to a single digit, all right? And it reveals your natural talents, your abilities, guides your career path, and shows how we manifest in the world. So animal symbolism is nice because it gives you a general like archetype. This is kind of the components of what's happening in here. When you learn about these things, numerology, this is a set tone. This is a set kind of area of what your life is going to look like for you, what you're driven by, what these underneath things are for you, right? There's another thing, your soul urge or heart's destiny. And this is where you use all the vowels in your name. And so this one reveals your deepest motivations, your secret cravings, your understanding what makes life, certain life choices. It reveals what needs to be understood for you, right? And so this one is interesting because like this is really telling you what your heart is calling you towards. And so some people, once you do this, and if you're already established in what you want to do, this is what I was talking about at the beginning of the video, some things are neat to figure out after. Like for a lot of this stuff, I did not look into this stuff until I did this video because I wanted to have tangible ways that you could apply numerology outside, because I started looking into really the whole vastness of angel numbers, because I never really classified the angel numbers as just angel numbers. I always looked into the essence and energy of the numbers themselves, and knew numbers themselves matter, right? And so when you look into it now, numerology is using a specific number to loop you into a category. And this category, yeah, it's very generalized so everybody can kind of fit into it, which is what part of the skeptics, when we get into that, they're going to talk about. Is that a lot of this stuff is very easy for people, like, yeah, it belongs to me. And so like it's not about you needing to like self-identify with the group. It's just about it illuminating something to you, because sometimes there's a hidden nugget in there that maybe not common for you to understand about, right? And so, and everybody's going to connect with it in a different way. Different parts of that are going to stand out more than other parts might be for another person. So even though it's generalized, it's really not, right? And even if it is generalized, we are not all that very much different. When now that I've done psychology and looking into like individualism, we are different on an individual level. But majority of our issues and majority of our desires in the world, they all are very similar. They vary across a certain level of themes and topics, but for the most part, they're not that crazy, you know? And so when we get down to this, it's neat to see where you fall, especially if you've done the inner work. Like I've done a lot of inner work. So I'm already aware of who I am before I look at these things. So for me to look at them now and see how they align now is super cool. The last one that I looked into is the personality number, and this is the constants in your name, and this is the mask we wear. So the first impression we give off to people before we let them see who we really are. And so this is your filtering device, kind of like what you let out a little bit when you're uncomfortable. And so what's interesting is you can use these for your personal name, but if you're in business, like I am, you can use it for your business name as well. And you can see the level of that and how that works out. People use different things like this. Numerology, you can use it in comparing if you are relationship compatible, just like astrologically compatible, right? Different ways. So numerology, this is one of those areas where you can see how numbers can be utilized in our way, in a beneficial way, but that not just in a random coming up whenever kind of way like angel numbers are, right? Because those are a random, instant, random connection that's just going to pop up for you. But these things, these are something that's stable. These are fixed usually. The only time these are going to change is if you change your name. And then again, you're still that blueprint of who you were, the name you were given is always going to have some level of component to it. But once you become the new identity, they say which takes about 6 months to 2 years with your new name, you fully release the old, which still holds a vibration, but you become, in essence, this new name. Which, pretty interesting, right? Because even in marriages, right, maybe that's why some of them don't work after 6 to 2 years. They do not want to be under that new identity. They want to remain in their old. So their name goes back. Or they changed after that and still, maybe they don't want their old name back, but they still don't want to, they didn't want to proceed in that, right? So anyways, I found this interesting because for me, I looked it up for me, myself, my company, and then this, right? This podcast, this community online, right? And it's so interesting to watch the way this changes, okay? So like for me, in my expression number, I'm a 6, which is honest, just, you like to be of service for others, and you're creative, right? And that sometimes the detriment of being a 6 means you overgive to others, okay? And that's me personally. That's my expression number. That's my destiny number, is giving. I move into Shine From the Inside, my company's name. It's a 2, right? And if we get into down the road, we'll look into it. 2s usually mean like harmony, unity, okay? This is talent and working with others. That's a high level of intuition. Your sensitive radar makes you a good diplomat. So very interesting, considering my work is largely, right, talking one-on-one with people, trying to discern, which takes a lot of intuition, what the most important thing we need to talk about is, and using that sensitive radar to really work with people on what that needs to be addressed on, right? And then when I add community in this, right, if I add community into this destiny, the expression or destiny number that's behind this podcast itself, this entity that we are talking through, right, becomes a 9. 9 in this is a humanitarian. Isn't that neat? I thought that was neat. Anyways, it means that you're big picture thinking, you're a teacher, you're sharing vast levels of knowledge, truth seeker. Community. Did I know that? Did I know that when I put these names together? No, I didn't. No, I didn't. So when people are skeptical, yeah, be skeptical. But how poetic is the way that my own expression of my own name, totally different from my business name, and yet it looks like an evolution, doesn't it? Right? And I did it for all of them. And it's so neat. The last one, the personality number, the only one that did not change was from my company to my community. They're the same. They remain an 8, which I also thought was beautiful, because me and my personality number is a 1, right? So I'm a leader, a trailblazer. So the personality of who I am is wanting to be somebody that's a pioneer, to lead people forward. And Shine From the Inside and Shine From the Inside Community both is a powerhouse that uses energy productively and effectively with inner strength. Inner strength is one of the fundamentals of my company, right? So like just getting into these numbers and learning to connect them and seeing the power behind them, I understand people could be skeptical, because I get it. Like horoscopes, I don't read my weekly horoscopes. Don't care about it like that, because for me, right, I've looked into my birth chart, my whole birth chart. Am I a Sagittarius in my whole birth chart? No, I'm not. You know what I am in most of my birth chart? Capricorn. So when I read horoscopes, I can't just read the Sagittarius. I have to read the Capricorn. And then because I register as my rising sign, which is a Cancer, because I'm a very emotional person, I have to read the Cancer too. So if you don't know that, you're, again, still only going to read your sun sign. So again, the horoscope, not a full picture for you. So these things that I'm talking about, I'm not saying you have to apply them. I'm just saying one of the most amazing parts, if you do use them, is knowing how to use them correctly, because you can catch the little nuances of how subtle and beautiful some of these connections are, right? And if your stuff is not connected in that way, like you just seen, right? For me, you can tell that my work is my heart because of that evolution in it. You can tell that even the work that I do, my name itself even aligns with what my heart space is. So if you have a company and everything is vastly different and they are kind of butting heads, it might be a good idea to see that, hey, maybe I need to adjust something here, because maybe this will flow better for me in business or personal. How can I make this align to mash them together so that they can feed each other, right? And so anyways, numerology is one dimension that we can use these numbers in for predicting our overall stagnant or unchanging things that are just a general category for our life, right? Angel numbers are the real-time confirmations. These are the real-time where you're going through making the day-to-day decisions, right? So we can use these numbers also to direct our intention. That's where we're talking about the Gravoni codes, which are, instead of random numbers, these are specific numbers, okay? These are precise radionic signatures, like a GPS coordinate, and it takes us to a specific place. So they're used for recoding or updating our superconscious, programming ourselves, right, to be then reflected back into our reality. So angel numbers work like a mirror. They're going to reflect what our true state is currently at this time. So even when you're working with these codes, these numbers, these angel numbers can be like, oh, this is what's happening now. So you can see, if you check that number, you'll be like, okay, I'm on the right track for what I'm trying to manifest, right? But the codes are instead like choosing the image you want to look. So one's a mirror reflecting, right? And the codes are instead you use as like painting a picture. This is what the picture's going to look like. So when I look into the mirror eventually, it should reflect this image I've painted. But now it won't be the painted image. It will be the actual real image, because slowly the painting of that orchestrating of that system, slowly changing and adapting your system. So slowly you will see yourself adapt to that new form, right? And so these can be viewed as cheat codes. Like the codes can be viewed as cheat codes or energetic passwords, which aid us to return to something to its original state. Most of the time, whatever we're doing out there for programming, we already are that somewhere. So we're just trying to go back to what we actually already are. We are never, that's a big part of what manifesting you need to look into, is the lack. Manifesting from lack is the problem. Okay, so these things, we are never lacking already what we want. We are merely trying to remove the things that we do not need to be anymore and to return to the original state of which we already are. So for me, for a long time, I was like, oh, I want to lose weight, right? I was focused on that because that was what my upbringing was. Now, it's like, oh, I'm so grateful that I'm already in a fit and healed state and that my weight is healthy, that I'm strong and stable. And so my body continues to grow in fitness, right? Which is great. But it is not saying that it is out of balance already. I am not telling it that it's out of lack or it needs to change or something wrong. Because therefore it's giving an ultimate different message than what I actually want to transmute, right? Or transmit out. So once we know what kind of coding we are trying to work on, once we know what areas we kind of want to tamper with, we can then see in the coding where the glitches are, right? And then we can be like, oh, this is actually what needs to go in there in order for that to change. So these Gurbani codes are usually 5 to 9 digits long, and they focus on them by by focusing on them, we then are retuning our frequency to match that code to achieve its outcome. So some of the ways that you can use these things as like, even though they're vibrational blueprints, but some of the ways that you can apply a Gurbani code is to either write it into your affirmation. So find the code that's specifically linked to your intention, write it in. I'm now applying this code into my system and it's giving me this and this and this. Thank you. Some of the other ways you can write it on, like use that affirmation. You can burn that affirmation, go bury it, because then burning makes it quick and burying it makes it longitude. Like you're like, okay, that is now going to grow and become something else. It's going to turn into something but it's already set in stone because the burning it commits it, and then laying it to rest is the next level of solidifying it. These other ways that you can do it before you get to that point, before you burn it or bury it, one of the things you can do is sleep with under your pillow for a while. You could, every night, you could write a different one, or once a week you could write a different one. And when you go to sleep, put a new glass of water above the code or the affirmation, read it, drink that water in the morning time when you wake up, and it's like an elixir of that frequency. And then you're drinking in those intentions. And then that's nourishing your body with the energy of that frequency, right? So since everything vibrates at a specific frequency, numbers are the mathematical representation of energetic states, which is why understanding numbers really does matter, because even your own self, like our aura, right? If they were to measure our aura, it's measured off of what's going on for energy, for your hertz inside of you, right? And so when we keep seeing specific numbers or sequences, it's never usually that random. There's something that is happening that you're vibrating at that state. And that's why it's being called for you in your system. We have this little area in our brain called the RAS, Reticular Activating System. And it is one of these things that actually goes around and is specifically looking for stuff to focus on. It's telling your brain, this is the filter, this is what you need to see. So when it heightens something to you, your intuition, in some way, your pineal gland has been like triggering. So you're like, whoa, focus. And so when you have these things, when I say it stuck out to you and you felt that, there is a reason. Like, things don't just do that. So that system became activated in your brain specifically because you needed to pay attention to that. And so, yeah, people can say these are the work of the devil. Yeah, people can say a lot of stuff about this stuff. But at some point, even the devil only gets you by you not facing things, okay? The devil can only really latch on when you let it. But when we face stuff head on, right, when we claim these messages and we work with them and we have that humility enough to accept what the messages are, it makes it really hard for demonic forces to play rampant in our system, because we then are operating on higher vibrational frequencies that they can't come around. They don't like. They do not like authenticity. That is the highest vibration we can be in, which is why you not gaslighting yourself, you not lying about these signs and symbolisms, very important, very powerful. Gaslighting yourself immediately puts you away from authenticity because you're telling yourself you don't know, that you're wrong. You don't sense that. It's not important. And that's the number one thing that they've done to all of us. That's why most of us don't pay attention to the signs, okay? So when I say paying attention to it does matter. It does matter, okay? And yeah, anything can be used for bad, but if you're using it for good, then bad can't really inflate you. There are people saying a lot these days, but the one thing that you should know is true in your heart, right? Because if you're truly in your heart with that, you are invincible. I do want you to know. There is nothing anything can do, unless, even when people send stuff to you, okay? And by that I mean like curses or hexes. At some level, when you get to a certain point, there is a certain authenticity that you're living in, that even if you get impacted by it, you better be like, if anything, I'm concerned for the people that it bounces back to, because that will be way worse for them than it will for me, right? So you might have to deal with some ramification, but mainly you're going to be given it as a test to see how you're going to handle it, and you're going to ace it because that's what you do. But when other people send it to you and you ace it, yikes, bad for them. Bad for them, I'll tell you that, because then they get the karma that they gave out times a bit more, right? It's always worse coming back because they tried to do you wrong. And you'll get an extra benefit because it was something you shouldn't have had to deal with. And not only did you deal with it, you dealt with it well. So you now get to ascend and get a gift above that, right? And so these things coming out, being in the best of your heart and intentions, working with love and authenticity, staying in that lighter dimensional being kind of area, very important. Even if you are in a negative mind frame, numbers can help you to remind you and to guide you out of it. There's usually some reason you're dealing with the darkness, okay? There's something in it. I deal with it all the time. As somebody who goes through the darkness on purpose, because I want what's on the other side, I'll tell you it's not a joy for anybody. No matter how many times you've gone through it and know you can make it through, you always question if you can, right? And so these numbers are so powerful that they can impact our auric field. They can immediately change. This is why sometimes you'll see a number, and if you already associate something good with it, like maybe you got a lucky number, change your whole day. Like it can just boop you right up, change that aura. And it can influence then our thoughts and emotional responses, right? And so it's really important to know that numbers matter because of how easily we are able to be influenced by them. And we can see that throughout history, okay, which we're going to get into next, how numbers have been something that have been not only looked at and seen, but people have applied them, okay? All right, now for the history of numbers and their meanings. Really, this goes back way further than where we are right now. Again, in my prior videos, I go back to the ancient civilizations. And it's no difference here because that's where they very much start. So Babylon is the first one. They developed the earliest systems for vibrational resonance of numbers and connecting them to the planetary energy in astrology. So in some of these breakdowns of numbers, they see like, I'll show you here. So 1, sun energy. So the number 1 is connected to the planet. Well, technically the sun's not a planet, but the sun makes sense. Because if you look at a 1, it's a new beginning. The sun, like with plants, If you get it in a card for tarot, it's like the sign of something's growing, something's blossoming. The sun is shining on your intentions and it's allowing your seeds to sprout. A 1 is not a 0 and it's not a 2, which means something is just starting, something is just sprouting. So sun energy is very much like allowing something to come to life, okay? So when we look at this, they connected a lot of these energies with meanings, but also planets, and the energy that these planets had connected to the energies of the numbers based off of what these numbers resonated at, okay? And that's all way back, right? So then we go, ancient Egypt is another one. They use numbers for magically, obviously, and spiritually to understand the human soul and align sacred architecture, like the pyramids, with celestial bodies. Ancient Egypt's big on a lot of stuff, so I'm going to move along on them because I love talking about them. But ancient Greece, Pythagoras, I don't know if I said that right, but in the 6th century BCE, he was considered the father of numerology. So this is where some of those definitions of these numbers come from, is all the way back to ancient Greece, right? And these taught us that numbers are the arcs lying under reality. So there's something underneath it all. That these themes, right, not that big. There's only a few of them. And then we are very bamboozled by all these different options out there. And actually, when you get into counseling or therapy or any of these works, if you are on the other side, you realize people do really fit into certain levels of themes and categories in their life. Even though they're all different for all of us in the way that they're playing out in the roles of our lives, they are still in these categories though, right? So, Plato explored metaphysical aspects of numbers. St. Augustine, numbers had significance in the Christian doctrine. Cornelius Agrippa, numbers, letters, and cosmic order in the Renaissance. Sir Isaac Newton, we all know, very important. Francis Bacon, biblical numerology, mystical properties in their scientific work. All right, and so then we get more of our modern, Carl Jung, which not modern, but at the same time, he's somebody that created the pre-existing archetypes in numbers and how they bring order to chaos for the unconscious. So they represent different stages of human development and consciousness. So this, at any time, we are always, because we're expanding, right? You'll come back to a 1 because you've completed something. So then you get to start again, right? So things are never ending. They're always just constantly ending in the beginning. There's always a recycling of stuff, right? But one of the more recent ones, there's L. Beltet and Dr. Juno Jordan, which is, they formalized numerology, okay, in the 19th and 20th century to introduce the life path system. And then we have the Doreen Virtue, which is the angel numbers, who created that. And that was not that long ago. It's only a few years ago. And she, like I said, has since renounced that. She has since said, no, I take it back. That's the work of the devil. And a lot of people, the reason why in religion the connection is because they say it takes you away from God. Like that it's God is now a beck and call, that now you can get a hold of them. They're on speed dial. God is not in the way that they think of God though, right? In the way of, this is all the divine. So even when you go to prayer, so you think the only time you're worthy of speaking to God is when you pray and go to church. You know, God is at all times wanting to talk to you. God has multitasking. He can talk to all of us constantly, daily, if you allow him, or if you allow it, right? Like source in the universe, everything is always talking to you. It's just so if you can understand it, and if you can apply it in a way that actually is spiritually aligned with the highest divine path. Because some people do use this stuff, whether they claim to be angelic or not. They use this stuff for bad, right? And it doesn't matter, like, what place. People can use the same things for good and bad. You see that with the Bible. All right? So, now we go into the history of skeptics, because Doreen now has even become a skeptic of it. And I believe, yeah, if you become too engrossed in these things, it is not good for you. There's a thing called spiritual psychosis that is a very rampant thing that people can get really down the hole into very quickly if you constantly are seeking signs, if the only thing you're doing is noticing signs and symbolisms and you're not able to ground yourself. Grounding yourself is very important in the work that we're doing. Part of this stuff, because it is spiritual, it is expanding these upper chakras, right? And when you get a lot of energy introduced into these chakras, you do need to work with your lower ones. You do have to ground them and root them deeper, so that a tree, right, it can't just have big branches, it has to have big roots so it can be stable. So every time I'm doing these videos, anytime I talk or do one of these, I go out into nature after, right? Because this is a lot for me to talk about. This is a lot for me to put out. It's a lot of energy in these videos. So if people are watching them being like, this is a lot, yes, it is. Even to put them together, it takes me quite a while to figure out all the information, and sometimes I hate it because I always bring up too much stuff. But anyway, the point is that people should be skeptical. I am very skeptical, and I still believe. I still got faith. So it's about knowing in a way that is authentic to you the true reality, knowing that people out there, once you know the certain ways that people are kind of manipulative or gaslighting, it really helps you to like learn the lesson and move away from, like, separate it from the person. Okay, so like that's what I mean earlier, is like, even though people are sometimes using things nefariously, there is a good intention that people can pull out of that. Like any bad experience I've had in my life, not really bad now, because I see the lesson, I see what I learned from it. At the time, terrible though, right? And especially the essence, a lot of the decisions I was moving in was not the best, right? But that changes over time, and so it's important for you to know that you can still use things and separate it, especially because people are now finding out, some people they followed, like religious leaders or anybody, people that are mentors or healers, the way that they are actually on the inside, not the best. And it discredit all their work. I get it, because I do move away the moment I find out about some celebrities, the moment I find out about some philosophers and stuff and their background. Immediately I don't want to be associated with their work. And it's hard because at some level I don't want to say everything that they put out is trash, because there is a lesson behind it. But I also don't want to support people who are not taking the path that feels authentic in the right way. But it's incredibly difficult to know. A lot of stuff does not come to light until too late, right? And so that's why you have to kind of have this discernment and own self-governing system for you to be able to not get engrossed in what people are saying and not get engrossed in the signs in that way, because the divine is talking to you in all ways, and including through yourself and your intuition. And so if you're constantly seeking external validation, you're immediately losing what it's only trying to teach you, which is yourself is the most important, right? You should be confirming things for yourself. How do you even know what that sign means if you don't even know what anything's happening for you? Okay, so skepticism is important. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, and I'm not saying that you should apply everything free willy-nilly. In modern day psychology, there's even a diagnosis for people who are like too into noticing the patterns. I'd say aphonia, I think it is, which is the human tendency to perceive meaningful patterns in random data. And so this is our RAS is very programmed. It's overactive almost to notice things, and therefore then it's not as factual, because you're programming your brain to always be heightened, always be on the lookout. It's again that overaction, just trying to find a pattern in everything. And if you are developing a spiritual psychosis, that is a really big sign that you cannot put down the patterns, that you can't stop it, that you are always... Sometimes I feel bombarded by it, and that's a little different. Sometimes there's a big change going on that you are going to be bombarded. It's like a continue. If it's like always, and you're like really hyped up, and like, I want to say you almost sound kind of manic when you're talking about this stuff. I would say maybe go out and ground for a while and try not to see the signs in anything, but just try to be grateful and mindful and present in just like how you're feeling. Not so much looking for signs, but how you're feeling. come back to into your body. Okay, so there's also pareidolia, which is faces in the clouds. Like, so you're always looking for something in the clouds. Like, these kinds of things is that you're always seeking and finding, because when your brain is seeking, it will find, which is why if you're going to seek anything, seek positivity, not negativity, because it will find the negativity, okay? But that's, again, these are just also, another one is the forbearum effect, which is overgeneralizations make it easy for anyone to connect with and not a personal frequency, as anyone could agree with it. This is what we were talking about earlier, how in horoscopes, people are like, yeah, anybody could say that's right for them, but not in the same way that it applies to their life or their self. So yes, you are right. But again, it all comes down to the application and the way that you're utilizing these things, right? So I'm not saying that's not wrong, because it is true. Overgeneralizations is a big thing. But so is overdiagnosing and overpathologizing and everything needing to be wrong with people, instead of just understanding that these patterns and things are real and exist, right? And so at some point, it's all factual a little bit and all not factual at the same time. So another reason why people are skeptical, lack of empirical evidence, really hard, to micromanage God. You know what I mean? Like, okay. Give me empirical data of miracles, right? Like, hard to do. So I get why there isn't any. Like, I had these people in the past when I was talking about some of this stuff. They're like, well, prove it. I don't know how to prove something that is an energetic thing that you'll notice in your life or you won't. And I also don't need to prove it, right? Like, you're either tapped into it or you're not, right? At some point, a skeptic, if you're so hardcore, it means that your chakras, like especially your crown and third eye, probably shut down, right? So at some point, there's literally no point to me trying to prove anything to you, because you're not open. That's a direct source for you to receive information, that crown, right? And that third eye, these things, they're receivers. So if they're shut, why would I waste my time on you? There are people that they're open for, like, so much that they don't know what to do or how to understand it. And guess what? I will help them because they need the help. I don't need to help people that are ignorant. And a lot of the time, we'll be like, well, prove it. Clearly, you don't understand already. And it's even more important when fucking somebody religious comes at you and asks you to do that. Prove your God exists. Prove your religion is the only religion that matters. Prove it. Prove it's the right one. Oh, it came from a book that was written thousands of times by different people who all had a different bottom dollar in what that book meant for them. Okay. Yeah, okay. Anyways, so then again, we have the Doreen Virtue one that says it's now a fixation. And I do think fixation is the most important, right? If you fixate on it, it's a form of divination. But the fixation is always going to be a problem when you look into psychology. You're only really at a disadvantage, or there's only an issue when there's a dysfunction. And usually a dysfunction is caused by fixations that are hard for you to let go of, which is why I was saying, if you're having a hard time stepping away from the patterns, might be a sign, right? So, and it leads you away from true faith, because if you're so looking, that is not random. Suddenly the signs that are standing out to you, not as powerful, because you're looking for them everywhere, And so it's very different. When I'm speaking on signs and symbolisms, it is not us hunting for them. It is understanding when they come up in a big way, then they matter. All right? When they come up in a way that makes you stop and pause and think about, then they matter. When you're sitting there looking at every license plate, waiting for an 1111 or triple twos or triple threes or whatever, triple eights, you are not getting a message. You are seeking a message, and that is not the divine. The divine doesn't need you to seek out like that. Like it or not, it will give you the best confirmations when you ain't looking for shit. And that's because you'll be so in the flow of a moment that when a sign comes up, you know immediately what's it about. But if you're constantly seeking a sign, you're trying to form a confirmation, and that's you trying to dictate, versus you being open and living in life and flow, which is very spiritually based, right? And to accept what comes up in that, to reflect that back to you, okay? So There's also the theological arguments that claim numbers are a way to systemize God. This is the God's waiting on hold kind of thing, treating the divine like input-output machine and not a personal being, looking and seeking out of desire for control, not spiritual growth. That's what we're talking about. And like I said, there is a way to do that. So it's not like I'm saying the skeptics are wrong. I'm saying this is one of the reasons that I talk about this stuff. I want you to go into it using the skeptics and applying your discernment. You need to be skeptical, and you also need to use, if you want to use or have a good partnership, you have to know how not to abuse the partnership. And seeking and hunting out these confirmations is a way of abusing a connection with what the divine is ultimately sending us for these messages. They're not meant to be controlled, right? The big part of the randomization of it is that we don't have control. And when you try to dictate them, which is why numerology is different, right? I don't use the codes, like the Grabani codes for manifesting. I have them. I understand them. It's not that I don't use them. I have used them before, but they're not something that I focus on because I don't want to direct my future like that. I don't want to control every outcome. But at some point when I did need major reset, I did do those. But now I don't feel I need them. I wonder why. And it's not because they didn't work. It's because maybe they did. And now I don't have to dictate because now I live in that vibrancy of where I want to be. But also because I don't need to abuse them. I don't need to micromanage the universe. I don't need to micromanage God. I don't need to micromanage my life. I want to be open to letting it evolve and to be what it wants to be, on top of being like, but this is the direction that I want to go in and this is what I'm going to focus on. So there is a certain point where I do believe skepticism is important because it keeps you honest in working with these things. And also, like, the best partnerships are the ones that are not ones that you take advantage of. Knowing these tools are out there, knowing that you can use them, it's the same with crystals. Just because a crystal exists, the time it's going to be bad is when you think that you have nothing and the crystal's going to help with everything. It's going to give you everything you need. No, the crystal amplifies. So if you already are coming at it with a lack, right, then it's not already working in the best vibration for you. Again, a crystal is a living being. When you're taking advantage of it, right, working in harmony with it means you want to amplify these things already inside of you to bolster that more with you, and knowing that when you're working in harmony with that crystal, it's going to do that for you. The same with these numbers. When you're working in harmony, you all can work together. But when you abuse them, they don't work for you. They aren't the same tool at that point. And then I would say they are a bit more of the negative variety, because that's the devil. If you get looking into like tarot interpretations, the devil card largely means like addictions, obsession, fixation, right? Toxicity, unhealthy attachments, this bondage to things, this need for external validation, this void filling and never feeling good enough, never having enough. So you need more and more. So when you are seeking, that is why it's not good. When you fixate, that's why it is not good. You're in the energy that is not actually a higher level. You are in that more lower energy frequency. So don't think that you got a demon just because you were in these energies. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying to utilize them the best. You want to come at them in the higher energetic vibrancy, which means not seeking, not forcing, not having an unhealthy attachment, but having this healthy bond to know that it's a great partnership that you can utilize when they do come up. And the more you understand them, guess what? Like in most relationships, the better you understand them, the better you can work with them, okay? So there's lots that can argue against its importance. It's hard to prove God exists, all right? And we still believe much of faith works the same. Like just because my things aren't right in front of me, a lot of the time they appear down the road and I can't prove they're going to happen until they happen. But a lot of stuff that I predict for myself has happened. So at some level, it happens because I made it happen, yeah. But there was something in the energy that spoke to me that this was going to be the inevitable end anyways. And at some point, when you have faith, you have to know that you have to believe before you see it. And that's a lot of stuff with it. And so I get why people have a really hard time with the energy of things and with the magical realm, the spiritual realm, because we have been taught to be largely physical and logical. And in spirituality, that doesn't really exist. The only time it exists is for you to try to bring that subconscious or unconscious dynamic, which is in the magical, ethereal, like not physical realms, but in the other kind of realms that are higher dimensional, and try to bring them down into this physical realm, to root them into your understanding, to make them conscious so you can live within them, right? Versus them being like way too beyond you for you to integrate. So I get why people are skeptical, okay? Everything is really helping us, but at the same time, it's something that I get why there's arguments that can say otherwise. Like, some things aren't helping us, especially if you never learn how to do them with care. Like, they're not going to help you. You have to learn everything to it before it really works, right? And so you got to learn that the divine connection is a part of you instead of looking at it a way to replace God. Like, it is just you, a little link for you to really have a direct source with that essence versus you trying to replace it. It's you trying to harmonize more. And part of that is, again, not taking advantage of it, okay? Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the numbers themselves, all right? So pretty much most lists you're going to ever look up, if you're ever going to look them up, is you're going to see that most of them go from 1 to 9. However, in some senses, like 10, 11, 11, 10, 10, 12, 12, those are all numbers that also are of equal value, and they will have a meaning, right? But the numbers in the single digits are ultimately going to be what adds power to the rest of it, okay? So if you know the essence of the number in a single digit, even if it's in a big digit with a bunch of different numbers, you can tell kind of the energy that whole number is because you understand the essence of each number in it. All right? And then the more that you see a number, again, the more power there is in that, right? And if it's ascending or descending, so an ascending is more like you're working towards something. When it's descending, there's a countdown. Something's about to happen. You're going to like 3, 2, 1 blast off kind of thing, right? Is what I always tell myself. When it's 1, 2, 3, I'm like, oh, I'm ascending. I'm working. I'm building up towards something. Right? And throughout the day, you might see then 4, 5, 6. You might see 7, 6, 7, 8. You might see 9, 10 on a license plate. To me, that means you went all the way through a cycle. If you in one day you've seen that, right? You might see that over a course of a week. You might see that over a course of a longer period, right? And so that's why noticing, you can really tell when you're going through the motions of something because you see these progressive ups or downs or specific numbers, okay? So there's 2 different kinds of lists. All right, and so one is more of like a numerology archetypes, which is the Carl Jung, and then there's the angel numbers ones that they're all very similar, okay? And so really, I'm gonna read them both, but you'll see what I mean. And Carl Jung actually doesn't do a 0, so angel numbers is the first one that starts, and that's where I say it's a portal. That's my own. It's one of the ones that I've always known because, and also a circle, right? So from all the Disneys or any kid shows or anything like that. If we go back to the signs and symbolism video that I did, circle's very big symbol, right? And a lot of the time circle means infinity. So paying attention to the shape of a circle is a large part of what it means. And it is the infinity, possibility, no limits or attachments. It's a fresh start or blank slate. So when you see 0 is just a lot in your day. Really good omen for me. Love seeing zeros. 0, 0, 0. Woo! Big timing for you, you know? When we get to a 1, though, I've already spoken on it a bit, but that's the new beginnings. That's the one that has that sun energy. The 0 doesn't have a planet because it's related to the angel numbers versus numerology. Numerology is the one that has the planets attached to it, okay? So 1 is the new beginnings. Initiation is the origin of all things. And so leadership, independence is a part of it. When we get into angel numbers, though, 1 means manifestation because you're building up something, right? Something's now being created. It also means individuality. And so it's a beginning, a new path, and your thoughts are aligned, especially when you see triple 1s. That is meaning like you have 3 levels of 1s that are telling you have a lot of ducks in the row. Lots of stuff is working, okay? So, and that's why an 1111 is really big because it's creating almost 2 highways with its two sets of 1s. And so it is becoming something that's even bigger. And you'll see later 111, like triple 4 1s it's because it transfers into, like, when you add up the ones, 1 1 and 1 1, it becomes 2 2, which becomes a master number, and that number relates to the master builder, which is why master builder means you're compiling something in the spiritual and the physical, and they're operating together, which means quick manifesting. That's why it was a wish numbers, because whatever you wish at the time, very good chance it'll come true, because what you're manifesting in the spiritual is wanting to come out in the physical. That's also why it's a warning sign, because what you're manifesting in the physical, if you're not thinking about it, if you're bah humbugging or whatever and you notice it, you might be creating something that you're not intentionally trying to create. And a lot of the time when we have some disasters come up in our life, it is important to know that at some point we created those. Taking ownership of that actually reclaims a lot of power to know that, oh, I'm going to create better now. Not that you're going to shame yourself for not creating the best, but that you'll just do better now because you're aware of creating like that you're not going to do it anymore, right? So then we move into 2. 2 is very same in the similar aspects for both, that they're both about balance and partnership. Union, cooperation, diplomacy, harmony and duality. So these are really about a coming together of things, right? And so they're the same really in both, but it's interesting because 2 is linked with moon energy, which I would have never thought. But anyway, creative expression is you for 3. And so 3 is usually in tarot, you'll see it's usually like building up of something. Or in 3 of Swords, it's kind of like building up for heartbreak. But anyways, 3, creative expression, joy, communication, spiritual triads. That's like the Holy Trinity, right? That is for numerology. In angel numbers, 3 is choice, past, merging, creation, building, ambition. So a lot of the time when we see 3s, they are letting you know that something is coming together. Like triangles have 3 sides, right? And so there's like those different coordinates that make a good shape. And so it's really about whatever choices you make can help you align in a way that actually helps your triangle come together. If you were to look at Robert's hierarchy of needs, right? He has a triangle that is filled up this way. But the point is that in order to fill up a triangle, you have to have that shape there. So you need all 3 components, technically, which usually is like mental, physical, and like spiritual in that kind of reality. But anyway, it can be anything. It can be any 3 sides, right? But anyway, point being, very similar. And this one has like Jupiter energy. So 4 is stability and foundation. It's related to grounding, structure, material reality. And then in angel numbers is very much the same. It does have change, free, or strength, responsibility, stability. So when I see 444s, it's usually a sign that I'm being protected, right? It can also, 4 can be a good warning that maybe you need protection. So maybe you're going into something or feeling some kind of way that you feel a little bit uneasy. It's a good time to be in your body and be like, you're safe, to affirm to yourself. Some people, you can set up a white ball of golden light around you, but 4s, a lot of 4s especially, 4 in tarot, right? The 4 of Wands, best omen in the deck sometimes, right? That's because it's like a triple ones happening, because 4 ones. So on some level, 4 is a really good omen. Builds a house and everything, right? Makes it stable. So it is something that can be a really good thing. It can indicate, if you see a lot of 4s in your day, that maybe you need a bit more of that, a bit more structure. It could also mean that you have a lot of guides around you that are actually helping you right now because you are building something that has taken a lot from you, and then they want you to know that it is foundationally sound and that it is being guided to extend, which is why looking into these meanings and knowing what's happening for you is going to help you know what the message of that number is, right? Anyway, 5s, dynamic change, I touched on it a little bit, but 5s, so interesting. Their dynamic change, freedom, movement, they also relate to your 5 physical senses. So if you see a lot of 5s, maybe you're missing a lot of sensuality in your life as well. This one is interesting because it's pretty much the same for angel numbers. Freedom, adventure, and opportunity are part of it. And that's just because you're breaking free with those waves. They're big changes, right? So you're breaking free into something new. 6s are nurturing, service, harmony, responsibility, community care, home, security, serenity, and it can be also a wake-up call when you see 666s. Why that is, 666s could be that you're not serene. You don't have security. Your home might be a mess up. It's interesting because we'll get into it. The next kind of area we're going to go over is like how some numbers are not innately good or bad, but like we're going to talk about some places and how they view numbers. And one of them comes up. Obviously 13 is one, but the 666 has been very much related to demonic essence, and it has nothing, when you look at the actual essence of the number, it's really interesting that is one that they would choose for that. But anyways, 7, spiritual wisdom, introspection, truth seeking, and inner mystery. It's also a magical kind of number, so a lot of like mystics and stuff will maybe use that, but in angel numbers, it's also luck, elegance, glamour, and wisdom. And then 8, abundance, cycles, power, material, success, infinite momentum. All right. 8 is probably considered one of the luckiest numbers, but it in angel numbers is success, confidence, authority, wealth, and abundance of flow. 9, completion, universal love, humanitarianism, and transformation. In angel numbers, it's completion, endings, high value or worth. And so seeing a 999 is usually like a really good omen. Like you're completing something that doesn't serve you anymore, because you've now coming outside of it changed. So you won't have to deal with it again, and you're moving on. And so you can see the bigger picture of how that's evolving into a brand new chapter for you, because what becomes after the 9 is going to be the 0 again. We don't just move into 10s usually. 10s are their own sign. So when you see 1010, 1010 is like one of my favorites. I love it. Probably just because of school, like 10 out of 10. That's what it immediately tells me, is I'm doing a great job. You got 100% on that because you got a 10 out of 10. But that's not specifically linked to these lists. Those are something that are expanded upon. So these numbers that I just went over, these are the basic essence for you to understand majority of the things. Even when you look at a 1010, why it's such a good omen? Because you have a 0, which is a portal, and you have a 1, right? So new beginnings, you moved into something great, and it's made something that's manifested through these portals to create the same result, a 10 and a 10. So it's the ultimate completion. You got 100%, and also that something new is afoot, right? Then there's 1111, which is the ultimate green light, thumbs up. We've talked about this a few times, but it could also be the fact that it's warning you about your mental state. 1212. Another huge, important one is 1212. And I think a lot of people don't really look at 1212 as the same, because a lot of people just think the hype up of like 1111 is it. But 1212 is actually a gateway of completion. It's a master portal. 12 is in our lives, like 12 months. 12 zodiac signs, 12 hours on a clock, so it means completedness and perfection. It is a really big sign also for like love as well, because of the unity component in the 2s. But it's really interesting just because 1212 is something that, yeah, I think a lot of people, it's one of my favorite signs to see, I guess. I don't want to get distracted talking about it, but through these, then we move into something which is what is called the master numbers, which is touched on a little bit earlier as well. And the master numbers are amplified versions of single digits, right? So 1, 1, 2, 2, and 3, 3 are the main master numbers you'll come into contact with. They represent a higher level of spiritual mastery required in this lifetime. Master numbers, like life path numbers, are permanent internal blueprints, okay? And so the master numbers are not reduced, and they only are doubling in their energy. So what happens with a master number to get the energy of it is you usually add them together. So like 1 plus 1, it becomes a 2, right? So 11 becomes 2, making a master intuitive. So it's a bridge between the worlds of conscious to subconscious. So making things come out of the subconscious, which is unknown to you. Like if you're manifesting, to make it conscious means to make it a reality now, which is why 1111 is a big deal, because you have those 2 2s. So you have double the energy of something coming into existence, okay? So then master builder is usually your double 2s. So 2 2. Why that's a master builder is because 2 and 2 becomes 4. What is 4? Stability and foundation, right? And so you now using all 4 sides of something, like to build a house and whatnot. You use your intuition from your 1-1 mixed with the groundedness of the 4 to give you your unique ability to turn grand and its spiritual visions into physical reality now. 3-3 is my favorite. I probably come into contact with 3-3 the most out of all the master numbers, but I come in contact with them a lot because you'll see, you start paying attention, like in any triple digits, there's the master numbers in them, right? So anyway, master teacher is the triple or double threes, which is a 6 energy, right? And that combines creativity of your 3s, the nurturing responsibility of a 6. Consider this the most spiritually evolved, rarest number. It's focused on selflessness and service to universal love. And so it is one that is really big, and why it becomes a builder is because of the fact that you're building on everything that it comes from before that, right? So then you become the teacher of it. Once you have built and understood it enough, you can then bring it out in a world that you now not only are building for yourself, but building for everyone. So master numbers influence other numbers to amplify base traits and adds another layer to perform on a higher mission. So you can see these master numbers inside of other numbers, and all it'll say is that is a highlight of what's going on in there. So when you see double 1s, double 2s, or double 3s, it is another level to which that message is trying to let you know what actually is at play happening for you and how to apply that on top of the message, because there's a higher spiritual point of view happening there, right? And so 1111 is seen as a major gateway portal because it transforms into the master number 2-2. So that's about the master or the rapid manifestation, and then the 1212 being the gateway of completion. It's a master portal for transformation kind of thing. So then we move into the different numbers around the world and which ones are kind of good omens or bad omens. So 8 globally, especially in China, is considered one of the luckiest numbers. 7 globally is seen as completedness and divinity because we have 7 days a week, 7 wonders of the world, 7 chakras. Even that jack point in gambling is that big 7, right? So another one, 3, universal, because it has that rule of 3 and the Holy Trinity in it. So a lot of 3s are seen as a good thing. And 12 is also universal harmony and order. We have 12 months of the year and 12 apostles kind of thing. So 12 is relevant for being important, which is why 1212 again is also seen as important. So then we get into the ones that are actually bad. Like these are classified as bad in certain regions of the world. So 4 in East Asia is actually because it sounds their version of how the word sounds like death. And so it's bad luck for them to even say it and whatnot because it's so closely related to death. And so 13 is more of our Western culture where I am right now, and it's because it's linked to the Last Supper. And so, because the last person was the betrayer, right? So Judas. So the thing is that I understand why they say that. But if you get into why, because that's what we're going to go into next. It's like what has happened since and what they actually mean in the undertow of these energies now, right? What's being reclaimed. Because these are all old things that we just agreed with. So in Italy, 17. I'm born on the 17th. So I was like so surprised to find a one that actually talked about 17. And apparently the way it writes means I have lived, implying our life and frequency is removed from places. Or implying our life is like over. And so the frequency of it, they remove it. They don't even have it in places for seating in Italy because apparently it's bad omen. So in Japan, 9, as that word closely relates to torture or suffering in their language. 39 in Afghanistan is for prostitution and pimping, so it's very taboo. They actually will pay money to ensure they don't have that in their license plates or phone numbers. 666, again, this is one I was talking about, and this is in Western culture, but also especially Christianity. It's called the number of the beast, and it's used as a symbol of the devil or Antichrist, which crazy to me. Anyway, so now, if we dive in deeper to these numbers, right? None of them are innately good or bad. Again, like anything I've said out there, anything can be used for whatever platform people want to make it become, right? So a bug, a virus versus a power-up is all in the hands of the person deciding that. So the change that happens here when you stop really giving power into what people classify as bad is you start moving away from a collective fear-based interpretation, right? And you move into your own individual vibrational interpretation, which is you start to really understand the harmonics of numbers and you don't let them dictate what they mean. Like somebody else's understanding dictate it because they have a fear, especially because some of these numbers hold power. So by you negating them or pushing them away, you actually are pushing away the power that energy of that number holds for you, right? And so 13, a really long time ago, was actually classified as a number for the divine feminine. Wow, am I surprised that they would remove a number that's specifically related to the divine feminine and make it something that's the devil of the beast? Because women in Christianity, right, we're the troublemaker. We made Adam eat that apple. And that's one of the reasons we're not supposed to be educating men, apparently, and why they don't want to listen to us. It's because women, we told Adam to eat that. We made that happen, right? And so Adam didn't have his own free will, apparently, right? he still ate that, didn't he? His own fault. But that's the thing is, like, when you start getting into some of the reasons they might have hid these things from us and made them bad, was because there was a lot of shame around women. There was a lot of shame not wanting us to see the power of them, like the matriarchal systems, right? When we look at it, there was supposed to be 13 months a year. There was supposed to be 13 zodiacs. It was all changed. We have 13 moon cycles a year. Women have 13 menstrual cycles. There's 13 Maya calendars and so it marks a cycle of completion, spiritual ascension. So those who didn't want feminine in power, I can understand why they didn't even want it to be looked at as a good day. They didn't even want people to celebrate a Friday the 13th. They wanted them to fear it. They're like, yikes. And it's crazy because Fridays are associated with Venus, right? And so that's even more of a feminine energy. That's why Friday the 13th are so powerful, but they've been taboo for so long. Even the number 13, it's just so crazy. And they dismissed it as a way to control this frequency's essence, right? And they dismissed it as a way to, again, stigmatize against the divine feminine in a way that was so not even related. Like, they didn't even want to address how it was doing that. They specifically just made it a devil thing, right? 666, same. So we see is actually about servitude, great divine. It's usually a call for balance, maybe a sign to focus greatly on the physical. You've been focusing too greatly on the physical. So this is, again, if 666 is warning about anything, again, what I've been speaking about when I talked about the devil, right? That obsession, those unhealthy toxicities. If you see a 666, it's a warning that maybe you're out of balance. Maybe you're focusing too hard on this materialistic stuff that is not filling the true void that you need, but is actually unhealthy and toxic for you. It's not truly the devil, right? It's not truly a demonic thing. It's just warning you that maybe you have to do something. Check your foundation. Something's maybe not balancing out right. And so the good thing is to call to stop being driven by lower impulses. It's a call for you to return to highness, to spiritual integrity and peace. So it's just interesting the way that these things, pushed out there and shuffled around for people, and like why we can understand how people don't understand that these things aren't necessarily bad or good, and how you actually have to look into it for you to even know. So 4, from death to manifestation, now 4 is seen as the most stable and grounding number. 4 elements, 4 directions, 4 walls of a home. So 4 is now, for most of us, right? Even, I don't know specifically in Asia if they don't now, but that's the thing, is 4 is not necessarily bad. We now have a lot of things that we use 4 in. So 9 also moves away from suffering to now a completion thing. We now see a completion of a life cycle, which we may have had to soften in it. We may have had to use suffering to get through because we had to transform. But now that we have used that, we don't have to suffer. We're actually moving beyond the suffering now. In tarot, a lot of the 9s, that's what they're talking about, is that you're moving forward now, right? Anyway, so 17, I was happy to find this one. 17, life is over to star wisdom. Because the star card in tarot is 17. It's also my birthday, right? And so in manifesting, all is spoken in past tense. So what I started thinking about is, even though it's saying, right, that terminology of that I have lived, it's like I have lived fully. And that is a manifesting that you're going to. That's what's going to happen. So instead of it being something that's like, oh, now you're going to die, it's more like, I have set it in stone. That's what I have done, right? And so it can represent hope, renewal, celestial guidance, a very lucky wish, signaling by the guided to the cosmos after a period of loss and darkness, because the star card is about having that guidance, the sky lighting up and helping you direct your way, right? And so 17, you have lived, so you have experienced enough to know this is the direction I need to go now. I have hope and faith in myself to know, and I can live according to that now. And I have lived truly to that now, or something along those lines. The point is to say that it doesn't necessarily need to mean it's bad. It's really in the context and how we apply or view it, right? So the difference is that numbers hold power. Creating fear of a number removes its aid, right? And instead it creates from a place of disharmony, training us or the subconscious to seek negative patterns, especially when that numbers appear, instantly seeking confirmation of terribleness, right? So part of them putting this out is immediately now you're looking for the bad. And that's why they did it. It was because if it has power, if it is innately good, and it's very powerfully good, we got to do something to offset that. And that means we need to immediately stigmatize it with the energy of a lower frequency feeling, which fear, shame, guilt, those kinds of things are the lowest on our spectrums for emotional frequencies, right? And so keeping you in those places and thinking of these numbers that way, now it has imbued that frequency in it, right? So the more we reclaim the true essence of frequencies of numbers and vibrations and the messages that they're offering, we can see them as power codes, letting us seek out with positive intentions, using it to guide us and change how our internal software processes that frequencies, turning into something working in harmony for the best of all, instead of instantly shutting off life into a negative context, like, oh, now it's just going to be a bad day. Now it's going to be terrible, okay? And so another way that we can also use numbers is there's the Fibonacci numbers, which is classified as organic growth cycles. This is another kind of classification group that you get put in, but they change. You will throughout your whole life cycle, till you die, these are the stages that you should go through from start to finish, okay? And so why that is because this is a growth algorithm. This is, again, showing you how numbers correlate to different transitions that were happening in life. These numbers are based off of nature, an algorithm from nature, and it takes the codes aligned with the natural expansion of the universe and applies it to our own growth, right? So when we use the map, when we map these numbers, they form a Fibonacci spiral, usually common image, that's that one with the a shell, right? And so anyways, this sequence can be used to map human maturity through the Fibonacci life chart method, FLCM, which is how psychologically and biologically evolution can happen in bursts or stages and transition us from one to the next. So this is where we hear that life is a spiral. Healing is not linear. It's always because we keep circling and expanding. So the inner circle is technically why it happens so quick, is because that's where we do the most growing right away, and then it takes a lot longer to come back. So when you come again to something that you've dealt with before, it is never a bad thing. You are at a different place in that spiral. You are further out from it. So it is a different learning thing, right? And you're incorporating what you've learned since you faced it. So the stages are the initial ones. So the numbers range 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, 89. So they are spaced out, okay? And the patterns, obviously the stages get further out apart, like I was talking about. The first 3 are so quick because they're at the center of the shell, right? So if you were to look, I have one here. If we look at a shell, they are very closely together. And then look at how far the distance is before another spiral comes out, right? So when we have that happen, what happens is the initial ones are our boot ups. These are our seeds. These are the quick activations we have when we're born. So 1 to 3 years old is pure physical and sensory activations, establishing I am code, input-output protocols in reality, building trust and mistrust with environments. This is your self-survival. How do I survive in this environment? 5 is your interaction code. This is where survival meets exploration, testing how your actions influence others. The social spark, major expansion into the external world, because around 5, a lot of kids are starting to start school, right? And so that's what happens around 5. And then we move on to 8. This is the analytical drive. So industry, optimizing, learning to achieve development, concrete mind, if this, then that, right? So that's a big one. That's why a lot of stuff happens in those ages with kids, and why they are sometimes a little more rebellious. But especially in this next stage, they will be. So 13 is the next big one, and that's the identity shift, right? This is when puberty hits, software upgrades. That's chaotic because puberty is those hormones. They are very stormy. I want to say. Self-identity overrides parents. So ego formation, differentiation in your self-coding. So you're more likely to want to push the grain and go against it because you're established yourself as your own person now, right? 21, this is when you are sovereign. You become a full adult. And so now, as each of these cycles progress, you are integrating everything you've learned from prior cycles, right? And so it takes longer for you to get there, which is why they are spread apart. But at 21 now, you bring all this stuff you've learned and you become this full adult and you boot up into this next level of responsibility, of independence. But now, relationships, intimacy, linking code to deeper connections and building an adult community become a little bit more important at that age. The next level after 21, you don't hit another transitions until 34. This is where a lot of people go through a major thing because all of a sudden, right, in 21, your brain's not fully developed yet. 26, 27, boom, everything's clicking in. That brain is now fully fucking baked, right? So then by the time you hit the ages of around 33, 34, you've been working with that brain now for quite a while. It is now tapped in. You've now made a lot more connections. You're now getting a lot more stable. And so you become a master architect. You mass the stabilization period, one where we begin to build our legacy, right? I'm 35. So guess which one I'm in? This stage right now. A lot of the guys that I'm dating usually are in the same cycle as me because I don't date usually that outside of my age range. A lot of my friends usually in the same cycle as me. So everybody I know is really, anybody that I'm really close with other than my parents, they're usually in this cycle. I have people that are older than me as my friends and that are in the other ones. But majority of people, because this is such a big bulk of our life here, is that they are in this one. So a lot of us are all doing this all at the same time, generating and coding for ourselves and others, building foundations, mentoring, and ensuring outputs, builds, and benefits for future generations. My legacy is wanting to build a utopia. So this has now become the forefront of my goal. I have been thinking about doing this for quite a long time. I started this, my line of work back around 2019, 2020. 2026 now. I'm just getting into it. So it's weird how I wasn't ready until this year. And so and 34, I was like, how do I do this? How do I get this? All of a sudden it just was like, I was like, I feel like it'll come, and now this year it did, right? And so there's something about this kind of area that I'm like, wow, that's pretty crazy. Anyways, 55 is the next stage, right? So way longer now. And that's the stage of the sage. The sage is doing less and being more, right? So it's the teaching and spiritual synthesis, syncing with integrity, less external builds, more internal reflection, compiling all prior life cycles into a unified state of wisdom and inner peace. And then 89 is when you start your system log out. That's around when you're starting to gear down. Your program's like, okay, we're reaching the end of the game here. And that's okay. This is when you're returning to source. This is that full integration of your entire soul journey, reviewing of our own success, acceptance, wholeness before transitions beyond physical. So it's interesting because if you get to live a really long life, you can see these stages play out. Some people, when they know they're going to die sooner, right? You get a diagnosis, you see them go through these very quickly, right? And a lot of them, you'll notice it because the 89, that system log off happens and you can just see them being at peace with what's about to happen. So it's interesting. These gaps get longer as it takes longer to integrate all learning from prior cycles to be renewed into the new one. And it's all more complex, which is why it takes a bit longer because each time you're going through your entire database of experience to upgrade it into this next level. And so the more that you evolve, the more complex you get, that just enhances how much more database you have to go through in each cycle in order to fully upgrade it, right? And so it's interesting because that is another way you can look at it and just see how numbers themselves, our ages alone, can impact what cycle we're in, what area we're in. It's not the most important, obviously, but I wanted to go over it because I did think that it was neat when I started looking into numbers and that came out, because again, another coding, right? All right, so now the application of things, like how does it impact our auric field with these numbers, right? So since we're coding, these numbers act as an energetic input which can be harmonized with internal software or disrupt it. Due to all numbers having a vibration signature, creating patterns in our mental or emotional layers, things at play are these things that are affecting us, even if we know about them or not, right? So vibration entrainment, seeing numbers can nudge us into like a corresponding state, similar to how sound frequencies can align the brain waves to certain states, which we're going to talk about. I do have a little area on that. I'm going to do a video in the future more about sounds, but that's different. Anyway, energetic signatures is another way that they can be at play in our life, and because sequences prime for specific intentions, like we were talking about for coding, especially set for aura cleansing, purification, spiritual awakening, those immediately are set and programmed to go into your aura to be like, let's mix this thing up, right? So vulnerability detection. Weak auras can make us more susceptible, creating gaps for negative environments and frequencies to get in. When we don't know that our aura has been impacted, right? I went and got my aura read last year. It was amazing. I would highly recommend to everybody. You can actually see on their system if you have a tear, if you have holes and everything in there, and you're leaking energy. If you got holes in there, things can get in, other people's moods, other entities, negative entities out there. Everything's that much more easy to get into because your aura is technically protecting you, right? So if you have a really strong, powerful one, you actually are a broadcaster. You broadcast a frequency out and people can feel you. Like mine was very strong. And she's like, I could tell you were a yellow before I even put you on this machine. I was like, I wanted to be a yellow. So I'm happy about that. But when I did this was before I started doing this, right? And I'd been living in my head for so long, and being a yellow that much the way that I was, it was a sign to get more connected with my crown chakra. And part of being in your crown chakra is going with the flow. When I was having trouble doing this, I was like, no, it can't be that way. And I kept editing myself. I kept having to change, right? And it kept, I just realized I'm off topic. But the point is that I realized that I needed to be more in flow. And that was just letting myself do this however it needed to come out. And it was going to be good enough. I don't want to edit myself. This is live. The only thing I edit out is when I go on a ramble and I'm like, whoop. And you'll notice it in my videos all the time. It's a rough cut, so the point is that I genuinely try to be as authentic as possible. These are free balling coming out of my mouth, and I don't know what I'm going to say sometimes, which is why they're long. But the point is that the more that you're aware of what's happening in your aura, the more you can know if you are vulnerable. Because if you have a weak aura, if you have holes in it, others' energies, others' emotions, other things that are happening, you are that much more sensitive. You are that much more easily able for it to transfer to you, to change you. So if we are unaware of it, it can lead to things like glitches. We can be confused and shocked, right? Unaware of how it relates, or confusion that causes denial. Like when we have these angel numbers come up, when we have these numbers come up and they mean something, right? We can maybe just not understand how it's relating at all. Like going through the worst time of your life, you see a triple twos, which for me, a triple two is like, you're on the right track. I'm like, thanks. I'm fucking depressed. Like, I'm not on the right track, But if you're in harmony and you're working with yourself, like when I don't feel well, I give myself that authenticity to be like, you're not well. And the best way for dealing with these moods is to not push them off, is to welcome them and be like, I'm not well and it's fine. I will be better. Right? But it's not about pushing them off. And the more that you are aware, the less you can be confused or shocked by stuff, right? Like when you are handling something in triple twos, you are dealing with it right. You are on the right track. You are going to get through that. You are in union with yourself, and eventually that partnership will lead you through this. So those twos, they do matter at that time, right? But if you don't know, you aren't seeing it that way, it can be very hard to like even fathom what numbers are saying to you. And so if you're unaware, there might be a vibrational dissonance. So some people, if you're not truly aware of what energy you might be operating in and you're trying to, I don't know, manifest, right? If you're vibrating at a low frequency and you're trying to use high power numbers, it can cause a lot of difficulties. It can cause a lot of issues. You can have a lot of stuff come up. Largely that's because you're not there, which is why part of manifesting is visualizing and feeling into that, because that feeling is changing your body's frequency to match that vibration. If you're trying to manifest something and you're not operating in that and you're trying to use numbers that are operating in a frequency you're not in, it can cause a lot of dysfunction for you because you need to elevate to what that is trying to get you to before you can actually use it, right? So, and spiritual bypassing is another thing that you can do. So if you're unaware of it, like, we can obsess over them, or we can use numbers to avoid dealing with real emotional blocks like grief and anger. It's really easy, if you're unaware of actually what 1111 means, to just think it's a good thing. Like, oh, I'm doing terrible in life, and you know what? I see an 1111, so it means that I actually am all right, and I don't have to do anything. Actually, it's probably a more indication that that's a warning. You are not facing what you need to face, and you're creating more grossness for you because you refuse to look at it. And you're wasting all this potential of this 1111 on this dribble that you actually don't want, right? And so you can really bypass a lot if you don't understand. You can use any symbol to mean whatever you want and it not actually be true, right? In an attempt to actually be like, oh, I don't have to look that deep. 10:10 right now on the clock. Love that for me. Thank you. And by that, for me, getting a 10:10 at this point is like, wow, good job, because we're getting near the end of this. And a lot of this stuff, like, it's important. The next thing is confirmation bias, right? So the no awareness, we may only flag the numbers we want, leading to distorted views of reality and can scam the self. For me, in seeing these things, right, it is very important for you to be honest with yourself. And so if you're like that RAS, like I was talking about, it can be overly active, but it can be overly active for only seeing what you want, which is good sometimes. Like when I'm saying that you want to manifest more with the positive, that's great. But in order to be actually truly manifesting, it's better to be in authentic energy, right? And so if you don't have awareness to see the other messages and you're only watching for the good ones, the ones that are omens of needing change are actually more beneficial for you, because in order for you to grow in the manifestations you want the teachings. You don't just want, yeah, you're doing a good job. Not as helpful, right? It's helpful when you have nothing going on and you're like, man, I wonder if that was the right thing. And then you get something like that and you're like, yeah, it was. But when you actually are trying to improve upon your life, a confirmation bias only hurts you because you're really blinding yourself from the true message that's actually there for you, right? So once we are aware of numbers and their impact on our life, how we can utilize them opens up quite vastly, right? So we can utilize them in a lot of healing modalities. So a big part of that is going to be sound baths. Baths in general, I'll always say is one of my favorite healing. But even in this one, if I were to turn this way up, I have a healing tone playing underneath this song, underneath what we're talking about, okay? And it's in 432 hertz, which you're going to get into. But what I'm saying about sound baths is you're using specific frequencies to set that vibration in that water for when you're in it, so that you can get specific, so that that water, now its energy is now targeting specific areas in your aura, upgrading your DNA or areas of the self in general to help elevate you to match that frequency of what that water has now been transformed into, okay? So sound baths incredibly healing because of that. Adding a little bit of salt, even better, especially if you're just trying to do a purifying bath. Anyway, another way you can use frequencies, right, is in meditation. Playing certain frequencies while you're meditating can stimulate different areas of the brain to allow you. There's a specific one that you can actually use for meditation, which is just like a brainwave state instead, which is your theta. So anything in a 4 to 8 hertz is going to help you get there. But the whole point is that meditation in general, you can use other frequencies, ones that are part of actual healing frequencies, and they do something else other than just helping you meditate. Another layer, you can be like, oh, I want to meditate on spirituality, on self-love, on confidence, on my throat chakra, like specific intentions. There are specific hertz or energies or frequencies that you can use specifically for that meditation, which those numbers are what matter, right? The number of that essence of that number that's playing in that tone is what's going to make those things that much stronger, how you can apply those, right? Chakras. If you have a chakra out of alignment, you can use different tone bowls, like ringing bowls. You can use different tone musics. You can do different activities and eat different foods, because all of those things, even the foods and herbs and activities, all those also have a different energetic harmonics, right? And so using those, if you need to be in a certain energy, you can look up at energies that suit those kinds of things, and they can help. In your chakra, you can play specific tones that help balance or activate that chakra. You can also use them to help stimulate it so that you can work with the energy of that chakra. Maybe you want to for a day or something, right? Maybe if you go get your aura read, you've seen one of them is out of whack, right? And so playing those helps rebalance them, right? Eating certain foods can help balance the chakras, but also foods also have energy in them, right? So looking at the different hertz or energy in that food can then also help pinpoint if you want to help elevate a certain number in your life. If you want to carry more of that energy of that number, eat more foods that have that energy of that number, or herbs or activities, right? You can use intentional programming, a moment to utilize like a prompt in real time. So you focus your intentions and visualizations, and then visualize that 444 bubble around you, right? You can protect yourself while sealing in your intentions. There's also things that you can use for bringing in numbers is frequencies and clothes. So if you want to up the frequency of your body, one of the things you can do is look at clothes and see which clothes fabrics you don't really want around you. And it's interesting because a lot of the higher dimensional clothes fabrics, you'll see they align with a lot of these hertz we're going to talk about in a second, to show you again how numbers, they kind of correlate in a lot of things, because again, we're all data, right? We're all giving off this energy. So other ways that we can use numbers and frequencies in our life is by influencing our life, aka manifesting. So that reprogramming our daily using ritual methods, which is like I have a few examples here, but the example one would be the 369 method, which is you write something down, I do believe 3 times in the morning, 6 times in the afternoon, and 9 times at night. And the idea is that you're keeping the energy active and aligned throughout your day. And you're going to want to write this in past tense, like it's already come true, because then you're saying it's already here, right? But the whole point is, it's amplifying the energy. And 369 comes from Nikola Tesla, right? And so that energy in itself, 369, a whole other number pattern. This video, I'm not going to be able to touch on every single number pattern. That's important. The whole point is for you to realize that numbers matter, and you can use them in a variety of different ways for self-growth, development, spiritual growth, but also spiritual connection. If you're somebody that wants to connect more with the divine in your everyday life, numbers are a big way that we can do that. Another one is numerical affirmations, declarations. I'm aligned with the abundance of 888. One of the best things you can do after you say that is to be like, and so it is, now so it is, blessed be, anything of those notes, to be like, now it is, now it's a fact, it's sealed, right? You can use the day itself, because you can actually break a day down into its numerical value of a single digit, using the month, the day, and the year all at one. And you create a number of the day and let it guide your activities, because then once you know the number from 1 to 9, right, you then can see, this is what the energy of this day has for me. So these activities might be best to do. Like if it's a 1, it's a good day for taking action. You're starting, you're going forward. 5, big day, hard day. If you have a lot of really hard tasks to do, that's a really good day for it, because there's a lot of forward movement on a 5 day, right? Versus like, I'd say like a 6 or 0. But anyway, point is, you can go and you can even look at what kind of activities are good for those days of those numbers, and you can find out what most might be beneficial. And if you want, you can plan your weeks around those, right? Totally up to you. I don't do that. So physical inspiration is some write codes on your wrists or on a vision board as a physical anchor for it to come into your environment. Any way that you can really put these things on you that make it more tangible, or in your reality more tangible, is always going to add power to it rather than you just thinking about it or reading about it, okay? So now we're going to get on to some of our last parts, okay? So frequencies, here is where I'm going to talk more about the frequencies, just because I didn't want to leave this video without addressing it a bit. So frequency of sound is a whole other concept that I'll get into more in the future. But the main important is the number is the key to the tones, and it can have an impact on us as it's radiating that vibration, okay? And so again, this is like a GPS. This is where we're saying in sound now, this is what I want happening around me, what I want influencing me around me right now, okay? And so we're internally activating parts in us related to the energy of that number or tone. And when using them, knowing the numbers for which is best for your intentions will help magnify whatever it is that you want to create, right? So there's different levels to sounds you can use. There's two main distinctions, right? And I was just talking about it with the theta. That one is more a brainwave state. So these are using more like binaural beats or isotonic tones. And they help your brain to synchronize with external rhythms. So this is entrainment. So this is like helping your body get trained to these states, to be in them naturally. And so like delta is like deep sleep. So if you're having trouble sleeping at night, it might be beneficial for you to play something that has a delta hertz in it. You can play something that is on top of the delta as well. That might be better for what you want your sleep to have other than just deep. Like if you want to rejuvenate while you sleep, if you want to be working on self-help or something like self-love or self-healing, self-growth, those things, you can include those as well. You can play different tones, right? But these are specifically just the brain wave states for these ones, okay? So theta is your next one, which is 4 to 8 hertz, and it's meditation and creation. That's why it's a good one for you to use if you're meditating, because that is a natural brain wave that your brain is going to naturally do when it is on that state. So if you play these musics, your brain is automatically like, oh, it's time for this. That's what it means by entrainment, okay? So alpha, 8 to 12 hertz, relaxation, calm, focus, reduce anxiety. Beta is 12 to 30 hertz, and it's active thinking, problem solving, and alertedness. And gamma is 30 plus. Anything above a 30 hertz is in this, and it's about peak performance and focus. What's interesting is you actually, if you get into the energy and numbers of the planet and frequency that everything's kind of operating on, you'll actually see that Earth has a hertz as well. Earth is about at an 8 hertz. So when you go grounding, when you go outside and you step on the earth, that's what you're doing. You're grounding yourself to the earth's frequency. And earth is at that 4 to 8 hertz, okay? Which is meditation and creativity. If we were to transform the earth into a sound now, to a tonal frequency, this is where we get that 432 hertz, which is what they used to make music under. And they used to do it because it mimicked nature. And it was more harmonious for us. And they changed it, I think, to like 440 or something like that. And it's more disharmonious now. It actually isn't as healing for us, which is why if you go back and listen to older music, sometimes you get a whole different effect than what you do now. And why a lot of new artists now are starting to realize the power of frequency, including in their music. And why some of the new music, when they have that as a part of it, creates such a more powerful piece of art now that we connect with differently, that we actually are healing with now, right? And so that's what these next ones are called healing frequencies. These are solfeggio. I don't know if I said it. But the point is, these are more historical and spiritually rooted in ancient traditions and rituals. This is actually a part of music history, okay? And so they are linked to direct healing on an energetic and cellular level. These are specific things that they were created and found worked, right? And so this is where we find that 432 hertz one, right? And that's a common tone. They call it a natural tuning tone. It's more harmonious and it's suited for natural vibes of the earth. So they classify it as the earth's heartbeat, okay? And so But the other ones, the most common ones, there are a lot. You can look into a many vast deal of these, but these are probably the most common ones, what I have here. And so lowest 174 hertz is foundation, and so relieves pain. This is a really good one if you really need to help your body. Say you're healing from like an accident or something like that. Playing tones like this actually starts repairing on a cellular level to help your body know that's what's going on. 396 hertz liberation tone, release guilt, fear, and negativity. If you're having issues with like your root chakra, something on this kind of level going to be real beneficial for you, because it's speaking to those. That's where those energies are held. Those the fear, the guilt, and negativity, they hit your root chakra really hard. Okay, and so 417 undoing tone. So it's like undoing crossings of stuff. This is help facilitating change. Then we have 528 hertz, which is the love frequency, DNA repair, miracles. 639 hertz, connecting tone, enhances connections, harmony, communication. 741 hertz, awakening your body, mind, and solving problems. 852 hertz is intuition, awakening, spiritual order. 963 hertz is consciousness, fulfillment, spiritual knowledge. If you're like me, you've heard about a great deal of these. Like, I probably listen. The one that's playing in the background right now is a 432 hertz. But normally I have ones that are above 1,000 hertz. And some of them have multiple different ones in there. Like, they'll be like plus, 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 and they'll have like different ones all at the same time. You can pick ones that are specifically set up for just a chakra, but like, I love tonal music. It's one of the reasons I play in the back of this, is because I want these videos to actually be imbued with a frequency that is healing you while you're learning. And it's very interesting that this is actually an earth frequency, because of the fact that the angel numbers is a very spiritual component, which can be a lot for people to connect with. Even numbers in themselves, and to think of ourselves as data, can be like pretty overwhelming. So it's neat to have a grounding one, and I had this one playing along before I started this video. Okay, so how to activate these numbers is probably our last area that we're going to touch on today. Basically, the words are similar. So words are spells, right? So words are an instruction manual for our reality, and numbers are the energy source that powers the words for execution. So if words are the guiding force, then the numbers are the actual action of the force, okay? So the actual impactment. And so you use affirmations, intentions, or write them out in the present tense. Use a number that corresponds. Can be a single digit or any, but even using the Gravoni codes for that intention, it'll take place. And you can do it, like I said, taking it and placing it under the pillow, under the glass of water, going and burning it. You don't have to do it. You can do what you feel called to do. A big thing that you're going to want to do is listen to your intuition about what you feel like doing with that paper, right? Some people, like, I have a manifestation box. Sometimes I plunk things in there, and it's like a safekeeping area. And it's something that when it goes in there, it's usually for a long term. It's something that I want to manifest for a long term. It's in safe house of manifesting, right? So there's different things. What you feel called to do with your things is very important. And I would say that if you're not familiar, it's good to get people's suggestion at the start, because then you can try a few things and find out what feels most aligned. This is also where the 369 method could come in. You can also do a longer script. This is where you insert your name, your intentions, activating a code, and now so it is. Speak out loud, visualize the energy of what you're speaking, but also the power of each number, like it glows as you say it, and you're like, it's like, you know, if you were at a lottery and you're punching in your thing and you knew it was the right code, right? How it would highlight and elevate for each one you're putting in, because it is like this amazing divine code you're plunking in, right? And so it's coming online for activation, and it's coming alive for you, right, as you plunk it in. And so that's why visualizing is so powerful, is because it does add that next level of the feeling to it, right? And so you're not just like, oh, I'm just writing out a code. It's like, no, I'm writing out the code, the universal activation code, you know. So we've reached the end of the material today. Main point that I wanted to get across in this video is that numbers matter beyond the angel numbers, right? And it is, again, going to be a tool that largely is based on your discernment and needing to be honest when working with it, because if you don't work with it honestly, it's not really, it doesn't mean anything. It's not going to mean the same thing, right? And so an 1111 that I hunted for all day versus an 1111 finding me, drastically different message, right? And that's the same with, I could go hunting for love out there, but the love I might find might be trash versus if I waited for one that was meant to find me, right? And I didn't go hunting, seeking out of a lack. Something found me in my whole and healed state and was like, yeah. And so something came to me out of love versus that lacking stage, right? And there is a very big difference with that. And so numbers, very reassuring. I think some days when I'm having a real hard time, seeing some of those omens is really beautiful. Like when I was saying about being depressed and knowing that the undertow of these messages, it isn't just like, oh, fuck you for sending me yet another triple twos. It's like, oh, thank you for letting me know that I am getting through this by being in unity with myself, right? And a lot of people, they don't understand what the messages are saying because they don't know how to apply them. And I know this message goes all over the place, but it's really to say that numbers can be used in a variety of different ways. There's no limit. You could create your own. These people created these, right? The whole point is to know that they are a way to tap in deeper with what's going on underneath this surface level of reality that we have, right? And numbers are the easiest way for the divine to talk to you because it is so easy for numbers to get through to us because they are everywhere. So pay attention to them. Let them guide you. Let them see what they have to say to you. You don't have to pay attention all the time, right? They could be something that you come to and fro from whenever you feel the need or whenever they really do stick out to you. When I get too engrossed into the numbers is when I think I'm like, oh, I think you need to go into nature, So usually they can also be a sign of when you need to pull back, right? When you maybe don't need it to be in this data realm and you need to be more in this realm of just existence, right? And living in it versus trying to understand or be logical in it because numbers are still very logical, right? And sometimes the spiritual component is best just to be, right? Just to be. And that's, I find, when those true, beautiful messages find you that mean the most. And so that's all I have for you today. But it was something that I'm grateful I got to talk about. The next episode is going to be on moon cycles, which I'm real excited about because it's probably one of the things I know the most about. So I'm pumped to go over that next video with you, but also grateful for these tools and tips to be out here for people to utilize. Hopefully something I said in here was interesting to you. There is a lot of free calculators online if you want to do numerology just quickly and just see what they mean for you. And I highly recommend looking up a few different things because it's really interesting to see the components. Even if you got married and your name changed, looking up your before and after, so neat. Even looking up your name if you're somebody that changed your name just in general in life, so neat. Anyway, but just in general, just to see the way that maybe numbers after you watch this video maybe show up or act around you differently. And by that I mean some of them might be in a lot more closer to you than you think, For me, I never really realized how much I see some numbers until I really not started paying attention to them, but till I really understood them. Because again, that reticular activating system in your brain, it doesn't notice everything until it knows it needs to. And sometimes if you're telling your brain like not to notice that stuff, you do shut your patterns down in being able to connect those dots. So starting to open up the door, starting to tell your intuition it's safe for you to receive these messages in all these ways through symbolism and especially through numbers. Numbers can be overwhelming because there are so many of them. So again, taking time and space if you need it away from the numbers will be really beneficial. But overall, as long as you aren't getting lost in the sauce and the numbers are finding you and in a big way that you feel like this is important for me to look into, do it. Use it. Utilize them. Find a way to bring them into your life, because no matter what, even if our world changes, data is still going to be underneath it. And for us to create a utopia, we want to work in harmony with all quadrants or ways of life that make up it. And numbers are something that we should and want to because they are something that wants to heal and activate with us. So it is something that I definitely recommend people looking into a bit more, but That's all for now. So have a great day. Bye.